Well, welcome everyone, and thanks for coming this evening. I say this evening because, of course, it's 7 o'clock there, but I'm on the West Coast, which, of course, is 4 o'clock. So it's before dinner. So anyway, hopefully, now it's also very interesting that as I look over the room and I look at everyone now, I see a bunch of dark faces and in a sea of sort of people out there. You can probably all see me as I'm on the projector and you can hear me, but you look just like a sea of dark faces out there. So hopefully we can make this more personal and we can have some interaction. I think Bob's going to help with the microphone. So if you have questions, we're going to have we'll be able to answer those questions for you. The talk tonight is going to go for about an hour. I think that's right, Bob. We've got about an hour.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I wanted to talk about three things that might be important for, I talk about, I am a physician, retired many years ago though, but I wanted to I chose three topics to talk about tonight that probably you should be interested in. The first is, of course, fall detection. Fall detection is important. It's obviously a cause of big concern as we get older. So we're going to talk a little bit about fall detection and some of the things that we can do to help with that. I want to talk a little bit about emergency notification. This is if you do have a fall or you do have a health problem, emergency notification is so important to get help. And I think that's something that we have to think about and do some planning about. So emergency notification, we're going to talk about things you can do with the with your phone. And we can also talk about some of the Amazon products and a new feature called the Alexa Care Hub, which is a new product that Amazon has brought out. Then we're going to get into the nitty gritty, and we can look at some of the health problems and health monitoring features that are available, such as atrial fibrillation detection, your blood pressure, diabetes monitoring, oxygen levels, all sorts of good stuff that you can purchase and you can look at, and we'll talk about that as well. So we've got a lot to cover tonight. I have some prepared videos for you. We can play the videos and have a bit of a question and answer after it. So the first video is that I'm going to play you now is one that I produced. This is about fall detection using the Galaxy 4 watch, or we'll talk about all the watches and the use of fall detection. So I'm going to play this video now, and then let's hope to have a little bit of a chat afterwards about that. All right, Bob, we're going to try this. Let me know if there's any problems with the video. Let's see how we do. It's Ron Brown with Tech for Seniors. Yes, the Galaxy Watch 4 is out. I got mine last Friday, 4 days ago, and I'm putting it through the paces. Today, we're going to talk about fall detection. Now, I have an upcoming video called The Misunderstood Galaxy 4 Watch. I got the name of this from the last video I made, which was a very popular one called The Misunderstood Fitbit Sense Watch. Now, as a full disclaimer, I purchased the Fitbit Sense and the Galaxy 4 watch with my hard-earned retired money. I don't get paid to sponsor this video. These opinions are my own. So in this upcoming video, I'm going to do something special, and you'll be sure and want to watch this before purchasing this watch. I'm going to look at the 5 health features from a physician's point of view. I'm going to describe what is the health feature, how does it work, and from a medical point of view, based on my 35 years as a clinical physician working in the emergency department, delivering babies, and in the hospital, I'm going to tell you my personal point of view on what I feel about this feature. And you remember the routine. If you like this video, please click the like, and if you want to see more of them, please subscribe. Fall detection. What is it? Well, in order to have fall detection in a device, you need an accelerometer. This is a little chip that goes in the device that you're purchasing. And in this case, it's a watch. And you'll see an example on the diagram, and particularly up in the right corner, of a chip on an accelerometer on a device. The accelerometer measures gravity and movement and can identify if you have a fall through the software. Pretty cool. Now, the Fitbit Sense cannot do this. It does not have an accelerometer, so it can't do fall detection. The Apple Watch can, and the Galaxy 4 watch can as well. So let's look at how this works. All right, how does fall detection work? Well, there's the act of falling, and people can fall either forward, backward, or sideways. And as a result of the fall, the accelerometer through the software identifies this and then sends emergency notification through your phone. All right, I want you to stop right there. Before you decide to use this technology for your loved one to identify a fall or a life-saving event, I want you to be sure and watch this video. This is a video that I found in my research, and this is the YouTube site is called All Star Space, and I'll put the link in the notes below, but I've given you the link on the screen to the video that I want you to watch. In this video, this couple decided to test the actual ability of these devices to identify a fall. And they used two devices, one on each arm. One was the Apple Watch 5 and the other was the Galaxy Watch 3. And so they had a watch on each wrist, and they had mats out, and they tried to mimic falls and have the watch go off and see what type of falls would be recorded. And they found some very interesting information. Now, I'm going to tell you, don't do this. This could cause injury and really harm to yourself. I tried it a couple of times, and I'm sitting on a big bruise. I'm not going to show it to you because it's embarrassing. Now, here's the deal. They found that the identification of the fall and the type of movement that caused the fall was quite different between both watches. So the type of movement that would trigger a fall on the Apple Watch was actually different than the type of movement that would cause a fall with an identification on the Galaxy Watch. Two different approaches. Now, the second thing that they found was it wasn't that easy to make the watch go off. In other words, they had to fall pretty hard and try pretty hard to make this work. So, does this technology really work for our loved ones? Well, we don't know that. Certainly Apple tells us it does, and Galaxy and Samsung tells us it does, but there is no clinical trial or any body of evidence that really says this technology works. Now, Apple has had the ability to detect falls for a number of years now, and there is plenty of anecdotal information on the wire service that says, yes, I fell, I used the Apple Watch to get the ambulance there, and it saved my life. But when you sell 100 million watches a year, you would expect that to occur. So how valid is this type of technology? You must watch this video before you purchase this watch if you're looking to use it for fall detection. This is so important. It's a real eye-opener. The fall detection feature is not turned on by default on the Galaxy Watch 4, so you'll need to turn it on manually if you want to use it. It can only be enabled through the Galaxy Wearable app, so make sure the watch is connected to the mobile device first. Now, you'll see in the image today, you'll see that this is the display that you're going to see on your phone, and you'll see that we're going to go down to the advanced features and click on that. And you'll see it says Home Key SOS Gestures. So once we click on that, we'll see the next menu come up here, and you'll see at the top it says SOS. I want you to click that. Now at the top, you'll see two options that you have. You have the ability to manually send an SOS. And this is when you click the home button, which is the top button on the right-hand side of the watch, 3 times. And this will send an emergency alert. We'll talk about that in just a minute. You can turn this on or off. So this would give you the ability, if you fell and it didn't send the alert, that you would be able to manually send an alert. The second, of course, toggle switch is when you fall. So if you don't turn this on, it won't work. So this must be turned on to detect a fall. Then as we move down the list, you'll see who to send the emergency notification to. All right, so we're going to look at this, and we're going to send, of course, I'm going to send the emergency notification in the form of a text message to my wife, Gail Brown. You may also choose the same person to send an SOS call, but you could also define that as 911. So in the case of emergency, when an alert was sent, it would send it to 2 locations. One would be, of course, 911, and the other one would be your whoever you've defined for the emergency notification. Now the SOS with the home key, this requires the use of the device's location. So when you send an SOS from your watch, your location is shared with your emergency contacts so they know where you are. Now you can disable the collection and processing of your location information at any time by turning off this function. So after a fall, your watch will alert you for 60 seconds with a pop-up sound and vibration. You can cancel the alert or swipe to send the SOS right away. If you don't respond for 60 seconds, the SOS message will be sent to the emergency contacts that you have set up in the Galaxy Wearable app. So let's see how this works. In order to send an emergency notification with your watch, you have to be connected to your phone. This connection is a Bluetooth connection. So this provides all the limitations for Bluetooth connections. Let's look at your watch. First of all, your watch must be worn and it must be charged. So if you've taken your watch off and you leave it by the bedside table at night, this isn't going to work, because when you get up to have a pee in the night and you fall, your watch must be on. So you must have the ability to charge your watch. In other words, you have to take it off, put it on the wireless charger, and charge it, and you must do that once a day. Now the connection to your phone, as I said, is through Bluetooth. So your phone must be in an immediate area that you're in, not in the car, in the garage, or out on the street. So you must actually have your phone, and your phone must be turned on. It could be sitting in a wireless charging stand, but it must be turned on and connected to a charged watch on your wrist. Now the other option that you should seriously consider is purchasing the watch as an LTE version. And this LTE version has an eSIM in it. What we mean by an eSIM, this is actually a chip that's in the watch, so you physically don't actually have to put a SIM card in. So the question comes up with these LTE versions is, would you need to have a smartphone, or would they be standalone? And this is a difficult question, and it probably depends where in the world and what country you're in and what service that you're connecting to. It is certainly possible that they could be standalone devices and not needing a cell phone, but that would be dependent on how the individual provider would be configuring the device. Currently, to activate the phone, you need to send a code from a smartphone, and this pairs the two together. But it would be possible to send the to actually have this device activate itself, and I expect in some parts of the world and some services this will likely occur. All right, what is my recommendation as a physician based on this evidence? Well, there's no clinical data to support that this actually works. It's interesting when I looked at Samsung's marketing material today that there's no mention of fall detection at all. Also, the Fitbit Sense it does not have an accelerometer in it. Most of the information we have about this is anecdotal information from the Apple Watch. The watch requires to be connected to a cell phone through Bluetooth. Both must be charged and on. They both must be worn 24/7. The Galaxy 4 will require daily charging, and the technology is complicated, and you'll carefully need to select who you're going to choose this. Consider an LTE version. You may look at exploring some simpler options for some people. Just remember that the Amazon Echo products all have emergency notification, as does the Google Nest, and ADT has a very extensive emergency notification devices that you can wear, such as a watch or a pendant around your neck. So there are other ways of simpler technology than using fall detection on a watch. Well, thanks for watching fall detection on the Galaxy 4 watch. And be sure and watch my upcoming video called... All right. Does anyone have any questions? I think that we can certainly entertain a few questions just so that everybody understands. I think it's important that you think about fall detection. I think that's we all are you know, it is an important part. But of course, a lot is being a lot of information is coming out about using the watches for fall detection, and most of the information is coming from, of course, the Apple. And I think this technology is something we have to think seriously about, and I think we have to be very careful on who we choose to use those, because the technology is complicated, and there may be a lot simpler ways of going about this. Bob, any questions out there so far?
You there? Oh, okay. It helps if you turn the microphone on.
I was just wondering, what about areas that doesn't pick up, signals very well? How well will a watch with the fall detection work?
So Bob, I can't tell what the question is. You'll have to probably come up forward and just relay the question to me.
What happens if you're in an area that doesn't pick up the signal that well?
Sorry, what was the question?
What happens if you're in an area that doesn't pick up the signal that well?
So you're talking about probably the cell phone itself. I mean, there's two parts to that scenario. One is, of course, the communication between the watch and the cell phone, and that's Bluetooth, which of course is a very short distance. So as I said before, the two have to be in reasonably close proximity. You can't have the watch on your wrist and have the cell phone out in the car on the street. They have to sort of be in the same location. Now, as far as the communication with the transmission from your cell phone, that really depends on your cell phone provider and the service that you have. And yes, I mean, that is variable. Most, I would think, if your cell phone service is pretty standard now, and I unless you're in an area that really has poor cell phone reception, I don't think you're probably going to have that as a big problem. I think the bigger problem is the Bluetooth and not having your phone on, or not having it around, or it's not charged up. I think those would be more of a problem than not getting a signal. And that is partly why I'm not saying I think you need to, if you're deciding you're going to use this, I think you have to think seriously about that, because of course ADT, they have, or there are a lot of other systems that are based on wearing a pendant around your neck, and you push the button when you fall, and it connects to your to your landline or whatever line you have, and will send help that way. There's a lot simpler solutions to fall detection than wearing these watches. Okay, that's the point that I'm trying to make about that.
Yep, that was good.
Any other questions?
Yeah, got another question.
Okay, go ahead.
Any data about faults
Oh, false, false alarms.
False
Thank you.
alarms, right? Right. Well, yes, and that of course, and one of the problems that, and one of the things that I put in that video was was the um, the couple, the young couple that went and tested these and did falls. And I don't do this, don't try it, but they actually had mats out on the lawn and they actually tried falling, and it was really variable. I think that you're absolutely right. False positives or false negatives. You fall, if you fall and it doesn't go off, then you're in big trouble. I guess if it goes off all the time, then and it's sending false things saying that you really have fallen and you haven't, then you're going to get all sorts of problems. So yes, that's a big problem. In fact, the Galaxy Watch 4, the Galaxy Watch 3 was the first Galaxy Watch that had fall detection in it, and they had a lot of trouble with it. And when they brought out the Galaxy Watch 4, I thought it would get better, but it didn't. And then they put a software update in it that was a sensitivity. It was a slider, and you slid the little toggle switch back and forth on the sensitivity. And I thought, well, what do you throw Granny down the stairs until you get the thing set right? Like, I mean, how does that work? Or do you just slide it off till it doesn't work? You're right. That is a big problem with it. So again, the ADT where you push a button when you fall may be the best approach.
Just a quick refresher. You said there were 3 different simpler technologies. One was the Echo, one was ADT, and I missed the one in the middle.
Did you get that, Ron?
No, sorry.
was
I was talking about the
different-
different technologies.
Right, he was talking about the 3 different technologies. One was
One was
the
Echo,
Echo,
Right.
was ADT.
one was ADT,
And the other's a watch.
and the other was the watch.
Was a watch, right? And ADT is not the only one. There are a lot of other ones other than just ADT, but it's probably the most common. So that brings up to the second one is the Echo devices, and that brings up my next presentation that I want to talk about. And I wanted to talk about I don't know how many you've got. 25% of all homes in the United States have an Amazon device in them. So I'm hoping that a lot of you have Amazon devices in your home. And we've talked a lot. I've got a whole bunch of videos on the uses of these devices. But there are two things in these devices that are big news for seniors. And of course, one is the drop-in feature, and we'll talk a little bit about that after the video. And the other one is the new product that they just brought out this last year called the Alexa Care Hub. I don't know if Bob, have you heard of that? The Alexa Care Hub?
No.
You haven't? Okay. So I'm going to play you a video now. I think I'm probably going to make a video like this, but this is very well done. I want you to listen to this so you can, she really does explain this very well. So I just want to play this now, and then we'll have a bit of a chat about it.
Hi, today's video is about a brand new service or skill that Amazon's Alexa introduced, and it's called Care Hub. So I'm going to talk about how important a service like that is for seniors and family members and their caregivers. And in the description below, there'll be instructions on how to set that up, which is fairly easy. So, all right, so let's get started. But before I get into that, if you haven't yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, please click the subscribe button. We appreciate each and every single subscriber. And of course, click the like button, click the bell if you want to get notified when we put out a new video, which is just about every single Friday. All right, let's get started. My name is Esther Kane. I'm with SeniorSafetyAdvice.com. And like I said, today we're talking about Alexa's Care Hub service. So if you've watched any of our videos before or read any of our articles on our website at SeniorSafetyAdvice.com, you know that we have been talking a lot about Alexa and some of the amazing skills that it offers, not only for entertainment, but also for safety for seniors, and to help caregivers really remotely monitor their elderly loved ones in a very inexpensive and easy way. Now, the Care Hub service, which is brand new, is completely free, just like the other service that we recommend, which is called the Drop-In Skill. Now, if you're not familiar with the Drop-In Skill, that is another free service that Alexa provides that is used with the Echo Show, which is basically Alexa with a screen. So the way the Drop-In Skill works is, let's say it's a mother-daughter scenario. The mother is elderly, living in, I don't know, California, and the daughter, who is, trying to care for her mother remotely, lives in, I don't know, Arkansas. So that's quite a distance. There's no way that the daughter can get to her mother quickly. Even if she lived an hour away, there's no way she could get to her too quickly. So with the Drop-In Skill, what the daughter can do is just simply go to her own Echo Show, because you need two Echo Shows to talk to each other. So she could go to her Echo Show and say, Alexa, drop in on mom. And then basically it'll open up the camera on mom's Echo Show. So then whatever that is pointed to, she'll be able to see. The daughter will be able to see if her mom is okay. Is she on the floor? Whatever. Of course, it's something that you would use if you can't get a hold of your elderly parent. Now, not everyone likes that skill because it's a bit invasive. I mean, all of a sudden they can just open up the camera and see what you're doing. But if you're a fall risk, or if your elderly parent is a fall risk or has dementia or Alzheimer's and may tend to wander, whatever, the Drop-In Skill is a great way to keep an eye on that person. And it's wonderful really for remote monitoring. Anyway, so besides the Drop-In Skill, we're here to talk about Alexa's Care Hub skill. So how does that differ, or how does that add to that Drop-In Skill? All right, well, let me tell you. So the Care Hub skill basically is a way to monitor without visually monitoring, although I would recommend using both. But if you're just starting the caregiving process, if your parents are just getting to that stage where they may need a little bit of monitoring but not quite full-blown video cameras everywhere, then the Care Hub may be the solution for you. So basically the way it works is your Amazon account, the daughter's Amazon account, would be connected to the mother's Amazon account. And when the mother wakes up in the morning, let's say she wakes up normally around 9 a.m. every morning, and she asks Alexa, what's the weather today? That's usually the first thing that she does. So when she does that, that activity, or just the idea that one activity was performed, that gets put on a list. Now, the daughter can open up her Amazon account and look at that list. So basically, it's just a way to say that, okay, mom did get up this morning. She did something on Alexa. Doesn't say what she did necessarily. It just says that she did something. All right, so then I know she's up and I know things are okay. And, at noon, she normally will play music or watch a movie on her Echo Show or whatever, whatever the normal routine is. The daughter will get a list of activities that are performed, and it's just a way to know that mom is okay without having to pick up the phone and call and, whatever, in case the daughter's busy working or whatever. It's just an easy, quick access to monitor your elderly parents. Now, what if there is no activity? The daughter can actually set up an alert to say, okay, if there is no activity by 9:30 a.m., give me an alert. And then the Care Hub service will text or phone call and let the daughter know that, hey, nothing was done and it's 9:30 in the morning. You better check on your mom. Now, this is where the drop-in skill comes in, because now, that's an additional skill, but this is where the daughter could then call her mom. If there's no answer, she could use the drop-in skill to look and see, is mom on the floor? Is she unconscious? Is she okay? And then, of course, call for help. Now, the other way the alerts can work, the Care Hub alerts can work, is you can get Alexa sensors, sort of like the security alarm sensors, and put them on the door, on windows, wherever. And let's say, one of your parents has Alzheimer's, the other one doesn't, but one does. So if your dad has Alzheimer's and your mom is taking care of him, if she walks out the back door to take the garbage out, and your father, with Alzheimer's, goes out the front door during that time, an alert can be set up so that you will get the alert that the front door was open. You can then call your mom and say, listen, the front door was open. Is everything all right? Did you go out the front door? And she'll realize that no, she didn't, and run out and hopefully, catch your father before he gets too far or before he gets hurt. So it's a great way just to set up those alerts, and to let you know that your parents are okay, that your mom and dad are fine, without actually having to set up a camera and see them. So, of course, that would be the next step if need be, but this is a light way of monitoring without visually seeing them. Now, it is a brand new skill, brand new service, so there's some limitations at this point. Right now, it can only be connected to one Amazon account. So if you have siblings, only one of you is going to get that list and see what's going on. Now, next month, we are going to be speaking with a developer of another Alexa skill that may be able to work with multiple siblings. So we'll catch you up on that when we do that interview, when we speak with that developer. But for right now, the Care Hub just works with one other person. The other limitation is that it's only available in the United States at the moment. But remember, there's 10 to 12,000 people every single day turning 65, and that number is going to continue until the year 2030. So we have 8.5 some odd years of that number just growing exponentially. So I cannot imagine that Amazon won't be expanding services like this and continuing to add services for seniors and for their caregivers. So I do believe that this will eventually be going to other countries, but for the moment, right now, it's only available in the United States. Now, about 25% of homes in the US have Alexa, but I do think that that number will continue growing as long as Alexa keeps adding services like this. I mean, how great is it that it's free and that you can connect it yourself? You don't need anything special or extra except an Alexa device. Again, I would recommend an Echo Show. Personally, I think most seniors should have an Echo Show device in their home, because I think the drop-in skill is valuable as you get older. And I do think that it's a wonderful way for family members, friends, whomever it is that you trust, to check in on you, either visually or not, whether you use the drop-in skill or the Care Hub or the combination of the two of them. Anyway, so that's the Alexa Care Hub. Check it out. Again, I'll have instructions below.
All right. So those of you who have Alexa devices will understand that there are skills. These devices, skill is like an app. I guess you'd call it as an app. So we talked about the drop-in feature, which is an app or skill on the device, and of course the new Care Hub that is for you. I think it's something to think about. I don't know if anyone has any comments. If they've tried it, they've heard about it. This is a new skill set for these devices, but they're very common. And I think after we've seen what happened with COVID, and probably a lot of you are thinking, gee, I want to stay in my own home and be independent as long as I can. I don't want to go in one of those places they lock me up. So I think this is one of the options. This is a pretty interesting option for everyone to think about. Bob, any comments?
Any questions, anybody? No, no comments, no questions.
Okay, all right. Now, I expect you want to think about it. And so as Bob may have told you, we're taping this, and you'll certainly be able to play it back and listen to it. And it's something that you might want to think about.
Hang on, Ron. We got a couple of questions in the back.
I was just curious, like, you couldn't use it in the same house, in other words, or the same family in any way, because it has to be someone somewhere else with another echo, correct?
Can you use it in the same household, or does it has to be somewhere, someone else, a different household, the drop-in feature?
Well, to use it in the same household, it's all built in anyway. So you would, the beauty of the drop-in feature is you can do it with a different account, right? You don't need it. You wouldn't need it if you were all living in the same house. It would work without the drop-in feature because it's all built in, right? The goal of the drop-in feature is that you can use it with a different Amazon account in a different location.
So it has to be another Amazon account. It can't be like, there's no other way to connect it first. Say, I go out to the store, I can't figure out if anything happened while I was gone because it's not connected, I'm not connected.
Bob, I can't.
Okay, if she went to the store and something happened, she wouldn't be able to connect.
No.
She doesn't have an echo there.
Yeah, exactly. This is that you're absolutely correct. The way this works, of course, is you do need an internet connection. You do need to have these devices in your home, and they need to be, connected through the internet. So you're absolutely right. This isn't something that's portable that you take it with you as you're traveling or you go to the store. Absolutely correct. One of the things, though, you have to remember, this is free.
Hang on, we got
And
another question.
this is free, and so that's the other thing that's nice about it, is this is quite an incredible service that you get, and there is no cost. So it works well. Go ahead.
We got-
So I have a home and cottage, and I have 2 echo devices in each place. So all 4 of them are on one account. I'm just wondering if I could check in home to see if that cottage, I could check in and see if there's what's going on.
No, that's an interesting one. Give you scenario. We have two homes, one home, one cottage, and we have echoes in both locations. Can she drop in from her home to the cottage to hear what's going on at the cottage?
Yes, both ways.
She would be able to do that.
Yes.
It's all, even though it's on the same account.
Yes. Well, it wouldn't be the drop-in feature that you would use. It would be because it's all connected in one. You'd be able just to say, show me room 3, which could be the cottage, right? It's all on the same account.
Okay, no other questions.
Okay, interesting. It's very interesting. It's called the Amazon Care Hub, and I would encourage you. There's lots of videos about it. Look, think about it. It's if you have devices at home, these devices are incredibly cheap, and the service is free. So it's great. I can't test it because I'm in Canada and it's only available in the United States. All right, now the next thing, now we get into. I'm going to enough with the videos. I want to just talk a little bit about your pulse and a couple of things that I'm very interested in. So I'm going to share my screen. We're just going to share this. And we're going to do a selection. There you go. Bob, can you see that?
We can see it.
You okay?
We can see it.
Which screen are you looking at? Are you seeing the preview screen or are you seeing the main screen?
We're seeing one's got 4 pictures on it and one's got 1 single picture.
Okay, so you're seeing the 4 pictures there?
Yes.
Okay, great. That should be good. Okay, great. All right. So, oh, you're seeing the 1 single picture?
There's 2 pictures on it, one with 4, one with 1.
Now, does it just have the
There you
4?
go. That's the one with 4.
That's great. That's what I want. Okay. All right. So we're going to talk a little bit about hearts now, because this is sort of important. Most of you have probably heard of coronary artery disease. This is where your heart gets plugged up with cholesterol and stuff like that. That's one of the types of things that you can have with heart disease. The second thing is, of course, you can have valve problems, and you can have difficulty with valves. And also you can get into muscle inflammation or infection called myocarditis. And these are 3 things, but we're not going to talk about these today. These are heart problems we can talk about. But what we're going to talk about is the electrical conductivity of the heart. Now, it's real simple. I try to make this as simple as possible. You probably all have heard of a circuit breaker in your house. And this, if you look over on the right side, you can see a circuit breaker, and this has an on and off switch. The main electrical panel that comes into the heart comes in is evidenced by this red line. This is the main electrical trunk that comes into your heart. And of course, it goes to a circuit breaker. Now, if the circuit breaker fails and goes in the off position, your heart stops. Now, I think you all know that's a bad thing, right? All right. So nobody thinks that's a good thing. So if coming in the circuit breaker fails, it goes in the off position, your heart stops, and that's not a good thing. If it fails in the open position, in other words, if it allows too much electricity in, then your heart can go too fast, and that can lead to some problems, and we'll talk about that. So your heart can either go too fast or it can go too slow. And this is certainly a big problem. Now, many of you have had joint replacement. Sometimes you've had hip replacements, knee replacements. Many of you have had cataract surgery. So you understand that parts of the body wear out and we can replace them. And that's the same thing with your heart. We can get into problems with the electrical conductivity with your heart. Now, if we look at the importance of knowing this, we need to know if your pulse is too slow or if your pulse is too fast. And this is so important that everybody understands how to measure their pulse. Now, if you look up, we of course can take your pulse by touching your wrist, and you can feel your pulse. But we now have watches. We have any of these devices, even the cheapest $20 watch will tell you what your pulse is. And it's so important. If your pulse beats too slow, then you need to tell your doctor. If your pulse beats too fast, you also need to tell your doctor, because that can get you into big trouble. So, so we can measure your pulse, and it can alert you. A lot of these devices, such as watches, can tell you what your pulse is. So we really encourage you to monitor your pulse, and that's so important. And again, this is, you don't have to have an expensive watch to do this. Instead of feeling for your pulse, these machines will do that for you. Now, there are a lot of value for seniors, and we'll talk a little bit about that now. The problem with a slow heartbeat means that this circuit breaker can be failing in the closed position. And that means there's no stimulus to the heart and the heart rate slows down. And the problem with this, it's like probably like a car. If you've ever had electrical problems in a car, you know that it can be intermittent. So that's a big problem because it's not always obvious. And that's why it's important that you monitor your pulse, because you can often go in and say, you know, I was dizzy, my pulse went down to 40, and, you know, I didn't feel very good. And that's really helpful for your doctor, because then he knows or she knows that that's a cause of being dizzy was your very slow pulse. Also, as we get older, we don't tolerate slow pulses very much. Now, this is an interesting diagram. If you look at one of the things that we can do is that we can put a pacemaker in, and a lot of you maybe have had pacemakers put in, but as you get older and this circuit breaker starts to fail and you can get a very slow pulse, then you need a pacemaker put in. And if you look at this graph here, you will see that is there anybody here over the age of 60? If there is, then you can see that there is the graph goes up exponentially as you get older. So your chances by the time you get to be 80 or 85 years old are very high that you probably are going to need a pacemaker. Very common. Maybe a lot of you have pacemakers already inserted, but you'll see this graph goes up exponentially each year. So this is so important, because if you're driving and your pulse goes down to a very low rate, you could lose consciousness. You could lose consciousness and you can fall and hurt yourself. These are all, and it's insidious sort of thing because it's not real obvious all the time. So measuring your pulse is so important, because if it's too slow, we can certainly pick that up. And again, we'll see that. Now, that's one of the great advantages of all these watches, is that it can tell you if your heart rate is too slow. And this is an example of what you would get on the Apple Watch, but all of them will do the same thing, is they will tell you your heart rate is too low. Now, the same thing happens if your heart rate goes too fast. If that circuit breaker fails in the open position, then your heart rate is going to go too fast, and that may lead to a condition called atrial fibrillation. And again, maybe some of you have atrial fibrillation. It is the same thing as it can either go too slow or it can go too fast. And it's the same circuit breaker that causes the problem. And the problem with atrial fibrillation is it's the 5th leading cause of stroke. And because so nobody wants to have a stroke. And again, this is atrial fibrillation, and this is and atrial fibrillation leads to stroke. And so we want to diagnose atrial fibrillation. A lot of times people don't know they have it. The only indicating sign of that is that their heart rate is going too fast. So we want to pick up the going too slow and the going too fast. And again, if we look at the graph here, you'll see that the line shows again that as we get older, the incidence of atrial fibrillation goes up exponentially. So your heart could be too slow or too fast. And again, one of the big advantages of these watches are particularly the Apple Watch, the Samsung Watch, and the Galaxy 4 watch, is that they will actually do an ECG and diagnose atrial fibrillation. So if you notice that your heart is going too fast, you notice it's fluttering, then you can actually capture that moment by using one of those 3 devices. So that's pretty cool. And that is one of the things that we wanted to, I wanted just to discuss. Now, those are using those 3 watches. I wanted just to show you a video. There's a company called AliveCor, and AliveCor is a company that's been around for a very long time, and they market, they actually developed the technology that's used in most of these watches. But they brought out another product that that I just want to show you here how this works. This little video, it's like a credit card. You keep, it's not a watch, it's a device that you keep in your wallet. And I'm just going to show you how it works. And you can see this as I play this. And that was made by a company called Cardia Mobile. Now, so here's so in what I just described to you, if your heart is going too slow, any of the watches will, or devices, Fitbit devices that you, or any of the activity devices you wear on your wrist will work just fine. If it's going too fast and you want to know if you have atrial fibrillation, you need to do what we call as an ECG. Now, that is only done on the 3 watches, and that's done on the Apple Watch, the Fitbit Sense, and the Galaxy Watch 4. It's done on all those 4 watches. However, in that particular situation, you have to notice your heart is fluttering, and then you have to go and push the buttons to make it happen, just as this device I just showed you. So you actually have to make it happen. Now, what is just being approved this week is Fitbit Sense got approval from the FDA to continually monitor your heart. In other words, this is going to be a continual monitor for atrial fibrillation, not just when you don't feel well, 24/7. And this is just one is going to happen in the next year. We're going to see all sorts of new things happening. And so that's what I wanted to say, because I was excited today when the announcement came out about Fitbit Sense and being able to monitor on an ongoing basis. Some of you may have also heard about the upcoming ability of watches to detect blood sugar, and this will have a big impact on diabetes. And the technology is there. It's going to be done so there's no poking, no blood, nothing like that. It's done through sensors in the back of the watch. And this is this technology has been around for about a year now, and we're hoping that Apple will be bringing this out in their watch. We don't know it. We thought it would come last year. We're hopeful it would be this year. The technology is there. We have the sensors. It's a matter of somebody picking up the device and using it. So that would be sort of cool that your watch would tell you what your blood sugar was just by wearing it, and no poking. So that's coming up as well. So that's a lot of interesting things happening. You're going to see personal monitoring devices flourish over the next few years as we have the ability to monitor more of your data of your body remotely by wearing different devices. And I think that's sort of cool. Does anyone have any questions on that? Bob, there must be some questions.
Any questions?
No questions are a bad thing. It means that
Wait a minute,
nobody
I got one.
understood what I said.
I got one. Hold on.
What is the number too low, too high?
On the heart rate, what is too low? What is considered too low, and what is considered too high?
That's a very good question. I get that asked all the time. That's a very good question. And so the question is you really have to know what that varies widely for each individual. And it also depends on the medication you're on. Some medication you take can certainly slow your pulse down. So it really depends on, if you start measuring your pulse, you'll soon know what your average pulse is. And some people have slower pulses, some people have more rapid pulses. If you get in seniors, if you get your pulse going below 50, it's pretty slow. You don't generally tolerate that very well. So, if you're running below 50 or 50, around 50, then that's pretty darn slow. And you may be moving into a situation where you need a pacemaker. And that's something you'd have to talk over with your doctor. On the flip side of that, too fast would be, now, normally you tolerate a pulse of 120, 130, but once you get over 140, you just don't tolerate that very well. So, 140 would certainly is usually the upper limit of normal, what these devices set. You can actually change the upper and lower limit before the alarms go off. So, but usually about 140 is the upper limit. And then anything above that, then you probably need to get checked out.
We have a question in the background, in the back.
Besides you monitoring your health, who else is monitoring it? And do they report it to anybody or put that about privacy in the health conditions?
Was that a privacy question?
Yeah, privacy, if you monitoring the watches, anybody else seeing that information?
Okay, with the watches, is anybody else seeing that information, monitoring? You're talking about privacy concerns here.
You have the ability on the watches, and if we're talking about the ECG factor, is the ECG stays on your phone. You have the option, so nobody else is going to see that, but you have the option on the phone to send it automatically to your physician. So if your physician says, if I was going to do this, I would talk to my physician and say, hey, I've got an Apple Watch, or a Samsung, or one of the 4 or 3 watches. I'm going to do this. Is it okay if I send you the ECG? If I feel a bit weird and I do an ECG, can I send it to you? And so you have the option of being able to send, because it's just a PDF file, and so you just put in the app who you want it sent to, and you just put the email address of the clinic or wherever you want it sent, and it would send that. But aside from that, no, it just stays on your phone, and that you could show it to the doctor when you went into to see him that week. I guess you could open it up and just show him the ECG as well.
And that's the same for the card you showed on there, they measure your heart rate with the card.
With a cardio mobile, is that the same?
Yes, and they actually have a lot more options. They actually have a subscription service where you can send them electronically in, and a board certified cardiologist will read it and send the data back to you. One of the problems is, if you do the ECG, it has to be sent somewhere so that you know what it means, right? I mean, that's where going to school, medical school, tells us what it is. Now, the cool part about the Apple Watch, the Samsung, the Fitbit Sense, and the Galaxy Watch 4 is it will interpret the ECG and tell you right away if you have atrial fibrillation. So when you do the ECG, it will tell you immediately you do or you do not have atrial fibrillation. It will tell you that right away. It computes that. It's in the app. So that's the first thing you'll know, that it's either yay or nay. Now, the question then is, particularly with the one with Cardio Mobile, is a little more sophisticated, and that you can glean a lot more information from the type of ECG it does, but you need someone to interpret that. So that could be your cardiologist, your family doctor, It could be whoever you want to send it to, but Cardia Mobile has a subscription service, and you can actually have that sent. And within, I forget, within an hour or 2 hours, you'll get a result back, an interpretation, and it will tell you what the board certified cardiologist says and what his recommendations are. So it is a good service.
Any other questions? No? Oh, wait a minute, I have a question. Ron, good question. This is a little different. It's, if you had any experience with tracking devices, say an individual has dementia and you've got a tracking device on them. Have you had any experience with those?
Yeah, I mean, they're commonly used. Tracking devices are there are many different companies that make them. You can sew them in, you can have them as a device so that you wear around your wrist. A lot of times they're put in shoes or sewn into clothing. The problem with tracking devices is if the individual who's you're tracking takes it off and doesn't wear it, it doesn't work, right? So these devices can be put in clothes. I've seen them put in belts, shoes, wallets. I mean, there are a lot of devices. They work very well. In fact, you know, you can track your phone. I mean, if you have a cell phone, we can track your cell phone. There's a device in Apple and Android where it says find my phone. You hit the button and it will go out and it'll find your phone anywhere in the world. So I mean, as long as you have your phone with you, it'll track it. So and so the tracking ability is pretty easy with phones. But of course, if you're trying to follow someone with dementia, they're not going to remember to take the phone with them. So you have to have some other device. So yes, there's lots of that.
Okay. Any other questions? No. Bill, I think we're done. Ron, I think we're done.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Bob. I'll send you the when I get the file, I'll send you the file and it'll have today's show on it.
Excellent, excellent. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you everyone for coming, and hopefully you learned something tonight. All right.